Hi there, very good morning to all our viewers who've tuned into this live broadcast here on Moneycontrol. The show is called Newspresso with me, Stacy Pereira. And as the drill goes, in the next few minutes, we're going to be giving you a lowdown for all the top stories, how the central banks are really reacting, what's causing those bond yields to surge as much. Of course, all the corporate developments that are taking place in India and all the latest trends that are doing the rounds. We have all of that covered for you. So stay with us for the next few minutes because we are going to get you a whole lowdown of all that you need to know this morning. So let's get straight to it and bring you firstly what we're getting from our global dispatch. Now, it was the third day in a row and in a red, we could say, for indices on Wall Street as the Dow Jones tumbles more than 300 points and focus shifts now from the Federal Reserve's policy action to that impending government shutdown in the US. All three major averages saw sharp cuts of over 1.5 percentage point each. We saw the Dow Jones as well as the S&P 500, which are on track to end the week down more than 1% and 2% respectively, whereas the Nasdaq, that is poised for a fall of more than 3% on a weekly basis. But it is the Treasury yields that are actually creating the headlines right now. The US 10-year Treasury yield hit a high of 4.494% each, this reaching the highest level it has ever since 2007. The latest catalyst being the weekly jobless claims data, which shows that there is still strong labor market right now, and that could force the Fed to stay in this hike mode. But what really intensified the losses on Wall Street was also the fact that lawmakers in the US are now still scrambling to pass a bill concerning the government's funding plans, pushing Washington closer towards that shutdown. Now, market participants are concerned that a shutdown would further hurt the fourth quarter GDP numbers. In Europe as well, all the eyes were on central banks there in England, Turkey, Sweden, Switzerland and Norway, all of them putting out their policy rate decisions, where we saw a Swedish and Norwegian central banks both opt for a hike in their interest rate, whereas a Swiss National Bank and the Bank of England pausing its hiking cycle. If you look at Turkey, that central bank hiked its interest rates by about 30%. Now, a 500 basis point jump that we're seeing, it was 25 and now it's gone to 30% there in Turkey. Now, as for the indices, the Pan-European Stock 600 index, that one ended down 1.3% lower, with major bourses and most of the sectors all trading in negative territory in the euro area. It was travel and leisure stocks which saw the biggest drop, down by about 3.2%, followed by mining stocks which shed about 2.6%. Whereas in stock-specific action, we saw shares of Ocado fall close to 20% after it saw a downgrade, whereas activewear retailer JD Sports, those shares surged up by 7% as it said that it would meet its profit forecast. Well, also let's tell you a little bit more in detail about the Bank of England, which has gone ahead and kept its interest rates unchanged for the first time in nearly 2 years. The bank has ended its run of 14 straight rate hikes after inflation dipped below expectations to 6.7% versus the 7% that was expected. Now, the bank has been hiking rates consistently since December of 2021, and this in a bid to rein in inflation, taking their main policy rates from 0.1% to a 15-year high of 5.25% in August. The Monetary Policy Committee voted in a 5-4 in favor of maintaining the rate at its meeting, with 4 members preferring another 25 basis point hike to make the average rates to about 5.5%. And all of that definitely having a bearing on the markets here in the Asia-Pacific region, where Asian markets are continuing to trade under pressure. Investors are closely watching out now for the Bank of Japan's rate decision on whether it will make any changes to its ultra-easy monetary policy. Japan's Nikkei 225 has fallen by about 1.15% ahead of the BOJ decision, as well as reacting to that inflation data, which shows that inflation for the month of August has come in at 3.2%. This is a 16th month where the inflation is above Bank of Japan's 2% target. In Australia, the S&P ASX 200 has shed about 1.5%, leading the losses there for the Asia-Pacific region. There's also South Korea's Kospi, which is showing some losses. Hong Kong's Hang Seng also dropping by 0.2%, whereas mainland Chinese markets are also trading in negative territory. If you look at the Bank Nifty for us, that one also indicating a gap down start for the Indian markets. And let's also bring you up to speed with all the latest developments that are taking place within that Russia-Ukraine war. Well, Russia has gone ahead and unleashed another wave of missile attacks across Ukraine, including Kyiv and 5 other cities this time around. The strikes have damaged various buildings, setting them ablaze and even causing death of civilians and causing many injuries to others. Now, the missile attacks also come amidst the Ukrainian president denouncing Russia at the UN General Assembly. The ongoing war has also created a severe shortage of food grains after grain exports from Ukraine were halted. This has left many countries struggling, and in fact, Ukraine's key ally, that is Poland, has said that it will stop supplying weapons to Ukraine and instead focus on arming itself with modern weapons. Now, this also comes a day after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a veiled, in fact, proposition going out and taking a dig at Poland, saying and accusing them of that the European country is aiding Russia by banning Ukrainian grains. So that standoff between Poland and Ukraine also causing much of that trouble. Well, to other corporate developments, where at the age of 92, we are seeing a media tycoon Rupert Murdoch, who's finally decided to step down as the chairman of Fox and News Corporation. Now, yesterday in a memo to the staff, Murdoch wrote, and I quote, "Our companies are in robust health, as am I." Now, his exit as the chairman marks the end of almost a 7-decade-long media journey. During his career, he has created a media empire that spread across from Australia to the United States. Now, remember, his son, Lachlan Murdoch, will become the sole chairman of News Corporation, as well as continue as the chair and CEO. The transition is expected to be executed during the company's annual shareholder meeting, which happens in mid-November. Rupert Murdoch, who has a near controlling stake in both the companies, will now be appointed as the chairman emeritus of both the companies. And talking about media moguls, well, we also have a lot of developments that is taking place within the film fraternity in Hollywood, where writers and producers are close to an agreement now to end that Writers Guild of America strike. Sources are telling our network here that the two sides hope to finalize a deal at the earliest. However, if they do not strike that deal, if this falls through, then this strike will continue till the end of the year, if there is a fallout, that is. Now, Writers Guild of America have been on a strike, remember, for more than 100 days now, demanding for higher compensation for writers and also in order to tackle AI in this whole sphere. Now, stocks stumbled globally yesterday after that US Fed hawkish comments that we heard in that decision, and Indian markets were no different either. We saw the Nifty as well as the Sensex both falling for the third straight day to end with cuts of close to about 1% each. The Nifty remaining firmly below that 20,000 mark, whereas the Sensex, in fact, shaving off close to 1,600 points in the last 3 sessions alone. Banks were the ones that took it on the chin. The index fell by about 1.5%. We saw ICICI Bank, HDFC, SBI, all of those among the top losers, whereas the mid-cap stocks also fell in line with the blue chip. In fact, if you look at the BSE companies, those erased a market capitalization of almost 2.5 lakh crore rupees in yesterday's trading session alone. But among the stocks that you need to be watching out for today, look out for Vedanta, as its board has gone ahead and approved raising up to 2,500 crores via non-convertible debentures, and this on a private placement basis. Also see SJVN, that stock tagged by about 10% yesterday, and today the OFS will be open for retail investors, so you could see action there, as well as in the primary markets where Sami Hotels as well as Zaggle Prepaid will be listing on the exchanges today. Now to all the latest M&A action, where Moneycontrol had reported back in May, and now that news is really confirmed, where Glenmark Pharma has agreed to sell about 75% stake in its subsidiary Glenmark Life Sciences, this to the Nirma Group, for a whopping 5,651 crore rupees. Now, the deal will be in the share price of about 615 rupees per piece, and this implies a valuation of more than 7,500 crore rupees for Glenmark Life. Remember, the parent Glenmark Pharma will continue to hold just under about 8% stake in Glenmark Life after this deal, whereas Nirma will be making a mandatory open offer to all public shareholders of the target as per SEBI regulations. With the acquisition, Nirma Group has now forayed into the API segment and will be expanding its existing presence in pharma, consisting of injectables, parentals as well as ophthalmic products. And the chemical to building materials diversified conglomerate, which is the Nirma Group, has an annual turnover, remember, which exceeds $2.5 billion. And moving on to all the developments in the corporate sphere, where Wipro's Chief Financial Officer Jatin Dalal has resigned from the company. Dalal, who is a Wipro veteran of over 21 years of experience there, has been in the company as its CFO since 2015. His last day in the company will now be November 30th, I beg your pardon. And in his resignation letter, he went on to say that he is looking to pursue professional goals outside the organization, and which is why he's tendering his resignation. Now, replacing Dalal will be Aparna Iyer, who currently is the Senior Vice President of Finance at the company and who also served as a CFO of Wipro's Full Stride Cloud Global Business line. She will be taking charge as the CFO with immediate effect starting today itself. And Iyer, who has also spent 2 decades in Wipro, she's held different positions like that in the finance roles, including that of internal auditor, business finance, as well as finance planning, among others. So we are going to see a lot of action in Wipro, especially because of this top level changes that we're seeing in the management. Well, and there is also that diplomatic standoff between India and Canada, and which is only escalating by the day. Now, the Indian government has confirmed that it has suspended visa services in Canada temporarily. The confirmation comes just hours after the announcement was made to a website of a third-party visa application company called BLS International. Even Canadians who are not living in Canada will not be given a visa to come to India. The Ministry of External Affairs, in fact, accused Canada of diplomatic interference in India's internal affairs. The MEA spokesperson said, and I quote, "Canada's reputation as a safe haven for terrorists is growing." India also called for parity in diplomatic presence and said that Canada has been asked to reduce the number of diplomats that come to India. He also said that the Canadian government has not provided any specific information to the Indian government on the Nijjar murder case. Let's listen into what the MEA said.
That in English, you are aware of the security threats being faced by our High Commission and consulates in Canada. This has disrupted their normal functioning. Accordingly, our High Commission and consulates are temporarily unable to process visa applications. We will be reviewing the situation on a regular basis. That's what I wanted to respond to it on Pranay's question on visas.
So what's really doing the buzz on social media and otherwise? Well, remember when we were kids and we used to dress up for fancy dress competitions? Now, why am I reminiscing about my childhood on a Friday morning? Well, that's because Wayanad MP Rahul Gandhi in his latest viral video is the reason for this. Now, to understand the plight of Coolie workers, he decided to go down to Delhi's Anand Vihar station, and where he discussed various issues with these porters. Now, he also walked a mile in their own shoes. He wore that red Coolie shirt along with a badge tied to his arm and tugged on luggage. They're putting on a trolley briefcase on his head and walking that mile. Now, the viral video of the porters, he can be seen surrounded there by all of them, where they were heard screaming Rahul Gandhi ki jai. Now, Rahul Gandhi was simply just fulfilling a demand by these porters who wanted to meet him in person and share their plight with him. And have you ever been part of a practical joke that went wrong? If yes, then you may be able to relate to what happened with Zomato. Now, that's because in a cheeky post on social media, Zomato shared a picture of a bag of banana chips and also a help sign that was placed next to it. Now, what happened next was the caption, which read, then I quote, help, someone brought drugs to office, and they went on to tag the Gurgaon police social media handle. Now, Zomato just wanted to refer to that addictive nature of banana chips, but this post has not amused everyone on the internet. A Twitter user, Ravi Handa, slammed Zomato and called it irresponsible behavior from the listed company. He said that they should not be tagging police handles just to score some likes from social media, adding that someone from Gurgaon police will now have to respond to this and waste resources which could have otherwise been better used. Now, Zomato was quick to respond to its users and apologize as well for the post and took it down from social media. But it did spark that debate whether did Zomato really push the boundary by tagging the police, or is this just an overreaction by a Twitter user? Do let us know what you think and whether such things should be taken up to debate in our comment section below. Well, also let me tell you now what's happening with our dear Chandrayaan 3. Yes, ISRO scientists are now working to revive Chandrayaan 3's lander as well as rover, and this after it went on that 15-day slumber. That's because it has finally, there is sunrise on that Shiv Shakti point where the Vikram lander as well as the Pragyan rover are currently positioned. ISRO will again try to establish communication with Chandrayaan 3's mission, the lander and the rover, and the duo has been inactive for approximately half a month now, as it was on this moon's Shiv Shakti point, which was enduring freezing temperatures reaching almost minus 200 degrees Celsius. However, the arrival of sunlight now, there could be operational conditions, and which is why we're expecting to see some kind of reaction from both the rover as well as the lander. So if we get to see some kind of reaction, that mission perhaps will just get extended a little further. Well, let me also then tell you what you need to be looking out for today. Now, it is a big day because we are going to see more central banks come out with their policy decision, and one such will be the Bank of Japan. The policy decision, especially, it's coming at a time when we're seeing bond yields really surge. And Japan, remember, had that differential yield curve policy in order and made those adjustments so that it could be accommodated. So we are going to keep an eye out for that because Asian markets are going to be reacting to that. Well, from the courtrooms also, you're going to see Supreme Court pronounce its order on the sale and manufacture of green firecrackers in the country. This, remember, it has pulled up the Delhi police already for issuing that temporary license to shopkeepers in the Delhi NCR region, despite there being a ban on the traditional firecrackers, and this happened back in October 2018. So this verdict now will tell us whether even green firecrackers, the sale of them, will be allowed or not, especially in term with the impending festival season. It will be important to look out for. And of course, that much awaited, the recently released iPhone 15, that one will go on sale today. There are already reports of huge queues, outside malls in UAE and even here in Mumbai, in BKC. This morning, we saw huge queues of people lined up to get their hands on the latest offering from Apple. Well, here in India, it's going to be the first time that a made in India iPhone will be sold from the manufacturer's own retail outlets. So it is going to be exciting to see how many manage to actually pay up that sum and get their hands on the latest gadget. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this dose of Newspresso. Was useful and informative for you and gives you that kickstart to your day. It is a Friday morning. We have the whole day, a lot to look forward to, but also the weekend that is coming up and a lot for you to be looking out for. But don't go anywhere. Come back here on Monday morning, same place, same time, for your fresh shot of Newspresso. From all of us who put this show together, thanks so much for tuning in.